Salut! Bună seara! Uite, m-ați prins în direct în timp ce desfăceam sticla de Altos și v-ați prins că vorbim despre Altos, așa cum am anunțat. Și nu numai că vorbim despre Altos, avem un domn distins, un mare om în lumea bartendingului invitat, domnul Dre Maso. O să vă spună el mai multe, cu ce a făcut cu Altosul, a făcut și o competiție, a fost și prin Bali, dar ce are, cred că acest domn este o poveste întreagă. A scris cărți, o să vă povestească el. După aia o să mergem până în Cluj și o să vorbim cu Silviu. El a fost câștigătorul de acum 2 ani al maratonului la Altos. Și practic cei care participă la maraton, după cum știți, câștigă și această excursie, depinde ce probă este, ce brand sponsorizează, și el a fost norocosul câștigător al unei călătorii până în Mexico. Bun, una peste alta. Așa cum am obișnuit, o să începem și o să punem ceva video de prezentare. Nu este foarte lung, are undeva la 2 minute și este, după cum știți, despre Altos. După aia ne vom întoarce cu Dre și vom afla multe lucruri interesante despre el și despre ce a făcut în scurta perioadă, că este foarte, foarte tânăr. Toată.
Lo que hace único nuestro producto, yo creo que inicia por la gente.
Siento orgulloso de la gente que trabajamos en la marca.
Es un orgullo aquí para la empresa y para los mexicanos, porque es un producto que se produce aquí en México, entonces nos sentimos a gusto.
La gente está entregada y comprometida en lo que está haciendo, sabe lo que está haciendo y cómo lo debe estar haciendo.
Y desde ahí es donde empieza la aventura del sabor que tiene Altos.
Lo que el tequila Altos debe sorprender a la gente es su sabor, su aroma, su presencia.
So what makes Altos unique in comparison to other tequilas is that we follow each and every step with the most traditional methods.
Cuidamos y seleccionamos el agave. Nuestros compañeros jornaleros que trabajan en el campo se dedican a seleccionar las plantas.
Ha habido intentos de mecanización, de tecnificación en la cosecha, en la jima, pero a la fecha todavía no ha habido una máquina que supere al jimador. Cada vez que tomo un caballito de tequila, pienso que hay una carga cultural, un aspecto de mexicanidad, una pertenencia a los Altos y sobre todo una responsabilidad social.
Nuestro proceso puede llegar a ser sustentable.
Estamos haciendo proyectos de sustentabilidad que están ayudando a evitar contaminar más el ambiente.
Yo creo que a la gente le va a llamar mucho la atención que ese tequila fue hecho con responsabilidad, de alta calidad y específicamente de los Altos de Jalisco.
Nuestro tequila se elabora en México con manos mexicanas.
Tequila representa México.
Es importante el poder llevar nuestra cultura mexicana a cualquier parte del mundo.
We like the way we do things here, we like the way we live, and why not show that to the rest of the world so that they can be a part of it too.
Hello Dre, how are you? Welcome to our show.
Thank you much for inviting me to be here, and congratulations to you for putting these little sessions together. I think it's a great inspiration and you know, activity for the bartending community in Romania and beyond. So yeah, I praise you and thanks very much for letting me join you today.
Man, I'm gonna confess to you, I'm sort of a big fan of what you did in all this short journey in bartending, and yeah, I appreciate it. And when I heard that you accept my invitation, I was like drinking a few shots of tequila. And yeah, well, I think you are one of the main people who can talk about Altos. Why? Tell us. Actually, let's start from the beginning. How did you start bartending? When? What are your origin? Where did you start? Tell us, because I'm sure everything is really interesting.
Absolutely. Okay. So yeah, if I'm given the chance, I'm happy to talk about how it all started. Now, my first jobs as a kid, and when I say kid, like 15, I had lots of different jobs, tried lots of different things, and this would be through summer holidays, that kind of thing. But one of the first ones was working in a private members club and working with the bar team. Obviously, at 15, I wasn't making drinks, but I was helping them out. So that kind of thing is collecting glasses and changing ashtrays, but getting to understand the business a little bit. And really, at that age, it's more a summer job and it's a little bit of cash. But my mum also worked in restaurants and bars. She worked at the same members club. That's how I got that job. But later on, during college, I worked in a cocktail bar. So I was 17, 18. The cocktails were terrible. But as with anyone in this wonderful community will understand, that there are so many brilliant things about the job. It's, generally speaking, it's a lot of fun. You engage with a lot of different people. It's almost like you're socializing. And then if it's a bar job that allows you to make crafted drinks or cocktails of some description, you're using your hands, you're making something that's beautiful and delicious, and there's a wonderful connection between bartender and guest in so many different ways. Every day was very different. So after college, I ended up, like I think a lot of bartenders too, kind of working more, studying less. And when I finished at the age of 18, I said, okay, I want to go and find, I'm in London. I was born in London. My family originally from Colombia, but I grew up in a very British environment. And in London, not outside of London or any other part of England, but I am from London. So I said, well, let's go and find the best bars and the best people that make cocktails in London. So I started to ask people, what are the bars in London? It's quite hard. There weren't many at that time. So this would have been 1993 when I started working in London. And a few places were recommended, but again, it was a bit like the bar I was working at before. It was a bit cheesy, and I ended up working in a music venue called the Rock Garden, which was an icon of a place for my kind of first job into Soho, London. And at the age of 18, working in central London, late nights in Soho was mind-blowing, really. I was exposed to many different nationalities, many different stereotypes, many different characters. I'd say that I was quite young and naive, but I was fascinated by all of this. And quite shortly after that period, someone said, hey, I've got a friend working at this bar called the Atlantic Bar and Grill in Piccadilly, and he's talking about cocktails, and it sounds incredible. Why don't you go and check it out? And I went to have a look, and this was the key place. This was, I was so lucky that this was introduced to me, because at that time, I consider it to be like, the Wembley Stadium of bars. It was really doing the best at that time. It was one of the only late night drinking venues that wasn't a members club in London. So it wasn't a discotheque, wasn't a nightclub. It was a restaurant and bar. And when I walked down, it was very grand, and these big chandeliers, and this bar was huge. It could take, 150 people. The restaurant could take 200 people. There was a bar on the side called Dick's Bar, named after Dick Bradshaw, because he had opened that venue. And that bar was designed to look and feel like one of the bars from the Titanic. So you could just imagine, like, this place oozed style and sophistication, lots of celebrities, and but the key thing for me is that they had a training program. So they were teaching us all of the classic cocktails and how to do them in a good way. And it was, it was a busy very well practical, functional bar that was open till late. So we were doing classic cocktails, and then also in London there was this interesting time which often people refer to as the kind of the rebirth or one of the golden times, where we were starting to use good quality alcohol and fresh ingredients. So nowadays that sounds ridiculous. Everyone is doing that. But in that time, in the early 1990s, we were coming out of a time where cocktails were using sweet syrups and liqueurs, and not, maybe juice from a carton, but the idea of squeezing raspberries, or, muddling raspberries and all that kind of thing was fresh. It was a fresh idea. So the Atlantic was very key. So it had all of those elements. Also during that time, there was the launch of things like Class magazine. So we had the first cocktail publication released in Europe. I don't think there'd been anything else of serious nature that had come to the UK at that time. So this was really before people were using the internet. It was before people were buying cocktail books. That there were hardly any cocktail books, but I was working in a good place. So Atlantic for me, I've talked a lot about Atlantic, but it's very important. If I can name a few other places, the Lab Bar was very key. It's the London Academy of Bartending, which unfortunately doesn't exist, but it started off as a bar school around the same time, and then it turned into a cocktail bar. And when they opened, I think it really was, obviously I'm proud and slightly biased, but you hear this from other people, it was one of the most trailblazing bars of the time. So again, right in the middle of Soho, it had a big cocktail list, 150 cocktails, and then it took everything to an extreme dimension. Everything was made fresh. Nearly everything made in that bar. We had beers and wines and everything else, but we barely sold any. It was all about the cocktail, and it was busy all the time. So that helped me to become quite a fast bartender, if you like, or work under pressure at least, and to remember so many cocktails.
How do you see now the location stage, the bars in London? Do you reckon, because in the last years most of the biggest bartenders, they open their own premises, I don't know, from Catena with Eric Lawrence and everyone. Well, what's the future for the bartending? What's gonna be? Because it looks somehow now that we are overwhelmed. Such a good bars in London, at least it's full of it.
Yeah, I think something that is very positive. Obviously, we're trying to battle this current time, and everyone's a little bit worried because, as you know, the business of the bar business is already very hard, and we've now been, smacked right on the nose to take a few steps back and figure things out, and it makes it incredibly difficult. So it is brilliant to see bartenders opening their own bars and running them like entrepreneurs, and putting their own kind of flair and style into it. And if we look back, it used to be mostly kind of big corporate companies that would own places or hotels, and we would play such a small role in the whole picture of how the business is run. And things have changed. The bartender is a key character in the whole team, and these days bartenders have a much stronger voice about the running and the business of the bar business. And we've also seen a huge kind of influx of bartenders becoming ambassadors in recent years. Some of those ambassadors are going back to becoming bartenders, which is interesting. Going back to what they love to do. But it's I hope that I'm totally for and proud of seeing bartenders become bar owners. It was, when I started, it was such a kind of untouchable dream that I actually thought, could this really ever become a reality for me? And was in a position to open my first bar when I was, well, it was in 2005 when I opened a bar dedicated to Mexico and tequila, and that was called Green and Red. So, you know, that was a dream come true, but it's not an easy thing. It can be achievable, but I know so many bartenders out there that would love to have that opportunity. It's quite a small percentage that actually make that happen, and a very small percentage that can make you know, can make that a successful business. How can I ask, how's the situation in Romania? Are you seeing more bartenders becoming bar operators as well?
Well, of course, we are not London. We are like 30 years back or something. But yeah, I'm a bartender who opened like 6 months ago, or actually 8 months ago, a bar. We functioned just for 6 months, but then the pandemic came over, and I can't wait to open it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference between being bartender and entrepreneur. Because actually, I didn't bartend once I've been entrepreneuring. My wife more was collecting glasses and cleaning ashtrays and do lots of things, maybe security or other things than bartending. To be honest, it's everything is changing, and it's lots of paperwork as well. And yeah, it's not easy, but it's really cool. I think it's a feeling. It's a really cool feeling to sip some tequila and stay after a shift and say, oh man, tonight was so crowded, so busy, so nice, I'm proud of it, you know. Always you want to think forward a little bit, what you can change. It's really interesting with the cost as well, how to cut costs. I know that you are on this type of guy as well, because I saw some videos with you explaining about cost and how to make cocktails in Bali. I think I can't remember exactly the name of the video. And yeah, it's an interesting job, but it's a little bit different than being just a bartender.
Sure. Yeah, it's incredibly challenging, and you know, we are not, you know, no one really plans to work in this industry as a bartender. No one at the age of, well, there are a few exceptions, but no one at the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 says, I'm going to be a bartender when I'm older. Often it's something you fall into, and that's totally fine. And then you love it. And a lot of the time you just learn on the job. It's very common for that to happen. It's very rare for you to be given any kind of managerial skills or training, let alone ownership. And if you're a good bartender, often you're thrown into the position of maybe head bartender or supervisor or then manager. But managing a team is incredibly, it's a sophisticated task and really requires understanding on so many levels, because you're dealing with lots of different personalities and lots of different situations. And I certainly was one of those people that, you know, I would say that I was a pretty good bartender. So someone said, oh, well, you should manage this team. And I was like, okay, I'll try. And you make so many mistakes, and, you know, I'd say decades of making mistakes wouldn't necessarily make me a good manager or a good owner. It definitely makes me, I think I have a better perspective. But yeah, managing people is hard. Managing one person is hard, you know. So you imagine managing, you know, 2, 3, or 20, or however many it needs to be. So, you know, back to your question about what we see for the future. One thing, London isn't just about central London anymore. I remember that it would be quite challenging, quite difficult to go and have a good, well-made cocktail outside of central London. So if we talked about maybe West London, where Notting Hill is, or East London, where you mentioned Alex Cratena, where they've opened, there was definitely a time where, cocktail bars didn't exist. So now you can go to pretty much any part of London and you'll be able to find a decent quality cocktail bar. And then also, I think that if we look at this, what's happening right now, we have been forced to look at many different streams and channels and alternative ideas to succeed during this hard time. So you're seeing a lot of people that are doing things like bottled cocktails for takeaway and, master classes and whatever else. So, because we're in such a challenging business, it would make sense to optimize wherever we can. So I think coming out of this and in the future, you're going to see a lot of bars that will have their own bottle to take away and maybe their own cocktail book and maybe do master classes for their clients and all stuff that we know how to do. And it wouldn't be the first time we've thought about it. We've probably all considered it at some point, but we've seen that this can add more income to our revenue stream. So you're kind of silly not to think about those ideas if it's appropriate for your environment and for your location.
The thing is, Dre, I used to live in London as well, and I come back in Romania, I think around 7 years ago, and I was there for about 9 years. So that I remember the East used to be really was cheap, like from Stratford to how you say to Hoxton, and even there was quite cheap rents. And now in these days it's expensive, man. It's not anymore cheap. Like I think you are not drinking in Mayfair anymore, but you are still drinking in East London was almost the same prices like in Mayfair. No, almost, but it's quite close,
Yeah. When were you there?
Rents are.
What year were you there?
I moved. Yeah, I moved in London in 2004. Yeah, in 2004, in the summer of 2004. And I used to live in Stratford in that time, in the old days, and the rent was really, really cheap. Well, really cheap. It was still London, but it was cheaper, right? And then when 7 years ago, when I come back, I moved in Southeast. I was on DLR. I was one of the stuff on DLR. It's not coming now, the name of the station. And the rent was there. Like I was paying on sharing house 1,000 and something pounds per month. Like plus council tax, plus all the bullshit. But I mean, East is not cheap anymore. Like that's what the people they understand. Possibly like in 2004 there were people drinking cans of beer on the street from the shop, and there were just few pubs, and the pint was for £2.50, £3. Now the pint it's £5.75 probably when I went last time. Like it's expensive, no? And like even in Alex bars and the other bars, you get probably, if I remember good, like you get a cocktail for a tenner. Like it's not anymore cheap.
No, you're totally right. Yeah, I even before that, Sebastian, I remember going to Old Street in Hoxton that you mentioned when there was a nightclub that I used to go and visit called the Blue Note, and this was maybe 10 years before then, but there was nothing else, and most of those beautiful loft buildings were derelict. No one wanted to be there, and they have become prime real estate, and you can't get them for love nor money now. But anyway, that's natural. London grows outwards all the time, and all these areas that at one point are total dumps and no one would consider being there become gentrified, and with that you get a barber's, you get a cocktail shop, you get a coffee shop, and restaurants and everything else, and the price increases.
London is London. It's cool. I love it. I still love London, but to go to visit it, it started to be really expensive in the last years, and now I moved back and I have here my life. But I always come back in London, and I like to go to all the cocktail bars and see friends, but it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Dre, come on, let's say something about Altos, and I'm just curious, how did you get in this Altos business association? How do you call it actually?
Well, I'm not an owner of the brand, although I am part of a team that collaborated with, the inception, so the idea of it, and then the launch, and then I have kind of gone in and out of this relationship with them for the last 10 years because I've done different things. But I mentioned the first bar I opened, it was called Green and Red. It was dedication to tequila and Mexican culture. And I opened that bar because, and if I can kind of pinpoint this to one person, because I met Julio Bermejo, and he still is the ambassador for tequila for the Americas, so for Canada and USA. He came to London, I met him, we became friends, and he was the one that said, Dre, you should be using quality tequila, meaning 100% agave tequila for everything. I don't know why you're using anything else. But actually at that time in London, we only really had mixto tequila, some good, some bad. So that's what we were using. But, where he's from in California and San Francisco, they already had this appetite for quality tequila. And Julio runs his family bar and restaurant called Tommy's Mexican Restaurant in San Francisco. They're celebrating 55 years this year. He's also the creator of the Tommy's Margarita, which I think is one of my favorite drink of all time, made with tequila, lime and agave, if anyone doesn't know that, but you should already. So, he gave me a situation where he said, look, taste it. And he gave me a great portfolio of tequilas to try from different distilleries. And, I was wowed by the liquid. I was really impressed. And shortly after that, I went and spent 6 months with him in San Francisco, learning more about the subject. So I was just falling in love with it, if you like, quite quickly. We also went to Mexico in 2004 and visited about a dozen distilleries in a week. So learning about the process, the different methods, different geography, as in terroir, where they're made, etc. Obviously tasting it. But, I was so head over heels in love with tequila and everything around it. So the food, the music and art and culture. And that's when I came back to London and opened that tequila bar and restaurant with my partner, Henry Besant. That same year, we wrote a book called Margarita Rocks, which I've got here. So 70 margarita recipes, everything with tequila. So that was a lot of fun. And then, because we already had this brilliant relationship with Pernod Ricard, based in England, we obviously knew their UK brands very well. So Beefeater, Plymouth, Jameson's, Chivas. We would do events with them, etc. And in 2000, we were going back to Mexico every year. In 2007, they said to myself and Henry Besant, who was my business partner for many years and very good friend, they said, hey, why don't you come to the distillery in Arandas? So Arandas is located in Los Altos, in the highlands of Jalisco, where most tequila is made. And we had met Jesus before, a very noble man, and he was working on a new liquid. So again, it's right time, right place. We got to the distillery. They put in front of us maybe 40 different, numbered bottles. We didn't know what they were. They were essentially different blends, and I can talk about that very, very quickly because I know today isn't about, it's not a sales thing. It's not really about production, but just for people to understand, everything in that bottle is 100% agave tequila in its purest forms. And I'd often have this discussion with Henry of like, how would you like to make it? And everything we talked about was tradition, heritage, homage, going back wherever we could to using the original old school methods. And they had everything. They had, number one, they had agaves from the highlands, which are bigger, and they have more sugar content. So they're sweeter, fruitier agaves. Then they cook in clay ovens using steam. This is a process that takes 3 days. It's very slow. And then and this is where it kind of gets a little bit complicated, but not really, but 2-tier process. So they take the same agave and crush it in different ways. So one is a technique called Tohono, which is 500 years old, using an old volcanic 2-ton volcanic stone wheel. And it pushes the fibers around, it separates the fibers beautifully. And the other technique is 150 years old, called the roller mill. And this is the same machine that's used for extracting the juice from sugarcane. And it's basically pressed. And with the addition of steamed water, all of those sugars so it's very kind of practical, this method, at getting everything from it. The old-fashioned method is a bit more laborious and slow and more energy, etc. But what we found is that two different methods that they both go through fermentation separately. They both go through distillation separately, but it's the same thing happening. But we realized that they both had different characters. So at the end, the two are blended together. So kind of making 2 tequilas that are very similar.
It's like a half and half blend, or it's different.
Well, that's the $1 million question, Sebastian. And
okay, I tried. I had to try. Because I want to get rich after this show. Then I tried. Then I missed this opportunity.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
I can't tell you exactly what it is, and I don't know exactly what it is. I have a pretty good idea in my head. We can say that it's definitely more of molinos, because that is a slightly more economical, cheaper, if you like, process. It's not cheap, but it's a slightly, kind of more financially sound. So to keep the price down, this was very important for us, because we wanted this to be used in bars. We wanted this to be used by the bartender, not just stuck on the shelf. It had to have a price point that was reachable in some way. So Tohono is very, very expensive to produce. It's the purest, if you like. So there's definitely less Tohono than Molinos, but I can't tell you exactly the amount. If you ask Jesus, he'd give you this answer. There's just the right amount to get the flavor profile we were looking for. And he's such a sweetheart. But it was also, we did talk about price point, but we also talked about flavor profile. And he was brilliant in the way that he would ask Henry and I what we wanted as bartenders. And actually it was similar to what he wanted. But, we definitely wanted to retain good cooked agave flavor. So these are the flavors that, it's kind of like caramel and honey and that kind of vegetal and earthy notes. But also we wanted some freshness in there. So citrus and herbaceous notes, because if you combine and talk about all of those things, that's a brilliant starting platform for making a drink. There's so many things you can add onto what I just talked about. So, again, lucky we were asked to come in, and I think at that time there weren't many collaborations between bartender and brand, or bartender and distiller in that way. So Henry and I were looking at each other like, is this really happening? And I will repeat, I'm not an owner, but it has given me an opportunity to work closely with a brand that I have a connection with and strongly feel passionate about. And when I'm talking about it and touring and making drinks with it, I know the love that's gone into that product from Jesus and his team, from seed in the farms all the way to the bottle. He really does care, and he's also and always adamant about retaining just consistency and quality. He always talks about the right thing. So that's my Altos connection. But weirdly, we launched in 2009, and then a couple of years later, I took the decision to travel to Southeast Asia and work with a company in Indonesia. So, I saw the growth from quite a long distance, and for a few years, I was committed to working solely with a growing hospitality company, and it wasn't really right for me to, keep coming back and doing stuff. So, luckily, after a few years, I kind of came back into the picture, and the last, I'd say the last 5 years, I've had pretty strong relationship again. So yeah, that's my connection.
Looks like you traveled a lot during the years, and I want to ask you, what's the most exotic feeling and home where you've been? It's better maybe in Colombia because you've got Colombian roots. Maybe Mexico, it's cool. You've been like in Bali, or where is the best place if you look for it?
Yeah, well, there's there are a good few countries that I can talk about with such passion. So recently, I lived in Bali for 4 years, and Bali is a very different, very magical, very spiritual place. If you get to explore the deeper Bali, it has a very interesting religion, which is very spiritual. It's Buddhist, Hindu, and they pray to the gods 2 or 3 times a day. Every day, every celebration has, it's also, Bali is also known as the island of the gods. And a lot of people go there for yoga, for Reiki, for meditation, for surfing, for eating well. Yeah, so there's lots of kind of vegan and vegetarian places, and it's grown very, very quickly, which isn't necessarily a healthy thing for the environment. But if you go there now, it's a key place, I think, to get inspiration for hospitality. The hotels, the bars, the design is really incredible. So that's very close, to my heart. I also spent a couple of years in Colombia because although I had visited Colombia as a tourist, if you like, I had never lived there. So I thought, this would be a good opportunity to improve my Spanish, get to know the country, connect also with with my family as well, and take my close family, so my wife and child, to my origins, and that also is an incredible place that has quite a kind of negative history to it. And often when you mention Colombia, people are like, oh, like they don't really understand it. So, but if I ever meet anyone that's been, they only have wonderful things to say about it. So that was really interesting. But I guess their personal experiences. I love Japan, and I'm like a kid in a candy store in Japan. Everything is mind-boggling and interesting and wacky and futuristic and yet traditional. So it is. I can't wait to get back there. Mexico. I'm lucky that with Altos and House of Tequila, I managed to go there at least a couple of times a year, and I love it every time. It never gets boring. The people are very, very kind and warm and have a great sense of humor. And then, there's just lots of things to love. The food is great. And then not just tequila, but mezcal and raicilla and all the other wonderful spirits that come with it. So that's good. But, I don't think there's ever been a place that I've visited where I haven't seen something incredible about it. And what is brilliant about our wonderful industry is that we have this bridge connection where, if I was going to some place maybe outside of Bucharest in Romania, Sebastian, you'd say, hang on, let me introduce you to so and so. or let me find out a cafe to go to, a bar, or whatever else. We've always been very fortunate where we have these wonderful recommendations. I have been to Bucharest. It was a long time ago, and I did mention that I did some stuff, other stuff with Pernod Ricard. So I went with Vimborova vodka, probably around 2000. It might have been when you were moving to London. So I'd say maybe 2003, 2004, 2005, somewhere like that. And we had some crazy nights. I remember, you guys love a drink and love a party, and dancing, and it was a lot of fun. Cocktails, I'd say,
the things didn't change that much. We still love it, but we are partying in the house now. But yeah, cocktail industry probably wasn't the best in that time, and even now it's no way. Don't really have like a because we are not having a tradition in cocktails. That's the thing, Possibly we're gonna be, because you asked me earlier on about bartenders and own bars and all that stuff. But I think the bartender, they're gonna own small bars, cocktail bars. I mean, when the education of the customers, they will be higher, because we still have some cocktails bars, but we don't have that many guest customers, and that's why there are not that many cocktails bars.
Yeah.
Well, but I heard that you've been in Romania. I wanted to ask you. You send me a link. What I'm gonna post it now, and let me know what is it, because it's about the book, the latest book.
Yeah,
as this show. I'm not doing this show only for bartenders. It's about there are people watching this show who are just left for the different spirits and whatever. They don't have nothing to do.
Cool.
And this book, the name of it sounds like it's a book for everyone who can make cocktails home, no?
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess I mentioned a few places. I also worked with Jamie Oliver's first restaurant, which is called 15. At a time when he was, his career was booming really, but everyone knows Jamie Oliver having this kind of easy approach to making wonderful meals at home. So I guess there's an element of that, but also, throughout the years, people have always asked me, "Hey, Drake, customers, Drake, can you write down a simple recipe on the back of a napkin, something that I can make at home, or what's your perfect recipe for whatever?" So the idea of this came about, and this is classic cocktails at home, and the link that runs on the bottom of the screen should take you to a digital copy, and help yourself download it. Feel free to share it with people. It was, I guess it was not part two, but this one we did in 2005, and it was with a London publishing house, and Henry and I did this together. We got paid a very small amount, but we thought it was a privilege to have our names on a cocktail book. Again, another kind of bartender's dream that, it was a nice box to tick. But we were very disappointed with, I guess, the release of the book, because we had connections all over the UK and in many European countries too. And we also had good relationships with different tequila companies. So we proposed this idea to the publishing house that how about we tour with a book? Let's sell some books, let's have a good time. Let's have a party. Let's drink some tequila. And they just said, no, we're not interested to do anything. And I started just feeling a bit negative about the whole thing. The photographs are absolutely fine, but the photographer made some mistake. Things started to frustrate me. And I remember saying that, okay, I'm going to give myself this task. And it was a long time coming. So for anyone out there who thinks, I want to do a book, and I've been working on it for 2 years, don't worry. I think the second one took me about 8 or so years to actually kind of come to fruition and make it happen. But They're simple recipes, how to make in your kitchen at home using things that you have lying around. So no professional bar equipment. And I go through different spirit categories with, several cocktails in each department. These are cocktails that every bartender really should know how to make, but also anyone that is into drinking cocktails, some of your key guests, these are the kind of things that they should know too, things that they should be asking for or making themselves at home. So I did the photography with a friend, the design with a friend of mine did illustrations. I printed this. It was an old guy when we were living in Bali, an old guy that printed it an old-fashioned way, which means hand printing it and then leaving the pages out to dry and then sticking them together. Some of those books came apart. Some of the pages were upside down. But we did a run of 3,000, which I sold. Interestingly, this link that you have here, a few weeks ago, we decided to put it up. I decided to just put it out there, and we've had almost that amount of people downloading it. So it's 2,300 that have downloaded it, and then I think other people might be sharing it and giving it away. So let's say it's about 3,000. But for me, that's totally fine.
I think it was the perfect time as well, because lots of people they've been stuck home in this period, and they download it, and why not? And we know everybody likes to drink and eat, even if it's pandemic or non-pandemic. You're never gonna stop eating and drinking, because otherwise you're gonna die. Cool. Look, because you mentioned about the book, and you mentioned earlier on about Tohono. I want to show you a video, and this time after this, I'll put on Silvio as well. I will show you a video about Tohono Society, and you can tell us a few more words about it. And it's really cool video. I love it. This is one of the experiences what I would like to take part as well.
It's really cool to see a brand trying to grow with the future. So obviously sustainability is a really big thing for a lot of us, both in the bar industry and beyond.
The hospitality has been great. People are really helpful, supportive, happy. It's the best competition I've ever been in.
This is one of the only contests who don't use recipe cocktail. It's all about making projects and creative ones. So I was super interested in it.
I really appreciate the help that Altos, the Tohono Society, is giving to me to express. I mean, it's a kind of dream for me, this.
This competition shows us that sustainability is more than a buzzword. It's a state of mind and a state of being.
I've met so many amazing people from all over the world in this experience, and I think it's one of a kind in that way, that we're all connected through bartending in the industry.
Overall, I'm still pinching myself that I'm here, and I probably would still be pinching myself when I get home. But I'm having the time of my life. I've had a tough year, but this makes it all better.
And that's what's really cool about Collective Spirit this year. I think they're really changing the game of cocktail competitions. It's not so much about the drink, but coming up with an idea and a platform and something that the industry really needs.
I was well aware of the Tohono Society. I competed 2 years ago. What really compelled me about this year, it was the twist they took. It wasn't just about doing cocktails, it's about doing the different.
This is something that benefits the community 100%. And at the end of the day, I think it actually makes more work for the bartender than anything else. Could not be more grateful today than I ever been before to be part of a community that's bringing so many nations from around the world with so many great altruistic projects.
Yeah, and this was the Tohono Society. Tell us a few words. I put through Silvio as well because he stays there in the backstage for such a long time as well. And so, sorry, man, to put you there, but the times just flew over like I didn't notice. Silvio is the winner of the marathon. It's a competition in Romania. The marathon, and there was the Altos, and he'd been to Jalisco to the distillery as well. No? 2 years ago. When was that, Silvio?
The competition was in 2018, like in October or November, and I've been to Mexico this October, so just a few months ago.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Good. I heard from some guys that the other challengers allowed you to win the competition because actually they were just they were sort of saying, "Come on, let's leave Silvio to win because he never been outside of Cluj, never." And I think like, it's true or false?
That's what they like to say, but it's not. It's not true.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
Cool. This was I invented. Of course, no one have no doubts about your winning thing. All right. Let's Dre, tell us about what is Tohono Society, and that the video was in 2018 as well.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
So this competition is gonna happen again or not, or because in the video was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we launched Altos in 2009, we wanted to partner it with a training program. So together with a group of bartenders, we created something called the Tohono Society, and it was about getting bartenders around the world that were keen to learn more about Mexican culture and agave spirits. So it was a kind of networking thing and an educational platform, and it has grown and grown organically. I mean, this is something else that we could kind of add, but Tohono Society has its own website, and I encourage bartenders to go because there's so much brilliant information. If you start digging in there, they have reviews and articles from experts in many different fields. So, there's articles from yoga experts, food nutritionalists, from agave experts. I've done various things, articles about alternative sugars, you kind of name it, and it's growing all the time. So it's a wonderful resource. There's wonderful recipes in there. And you can look at more of what I'm talking about in detail. So in your own time, check out tohonosociety.com. But when we launched this training platform, it really, what we had was it was too geeky. It was almost 2 days of very intense, heavy education. So the thing organically moved and changed and became something that was more approachable. And we also had a cocktail competition, which I think started in 2010. So every year we would look at different movements, different trends in our industry, and we would relate that cocktail competition to that in some way. And this went from the slow food movement. We looked at also like the food truck movement and how we could incorporate cocktails into that. And then for a good few years, we talked about that keyword sustainability. So sustainable cocktails. We were asking bartenders to be resourceful and practical and less wasteful. And we had a good few years where the dedication and the focus was all about that. But there are so many cocktail competitions, and they're a great thing. We had this internal discussion with the team about how we could be disruptive amongst what we were doing. You know, what else could we give back to the bartender? And it wasn't, you know, if you have a cocktail competition, yes, we can take people to Mexico, and that's a wonderful experience. But you only have one person that wins, and I don't know. It felt like we had to try something different, and we had, in reality, been talking about this for a number of years, and what we ended up producing or coming up with was, so it's still a Tohono Society. We still want people to be part of that, but under that umbrella, we created a new project called the Collective Spirit, and the Collective Spirit had nothing to do with creating a cocktail recipe or ingredients. It was more about asking the bartender to come up with an entrepreneurial project. We were asking bartenders to be business owners, if you like, and with a grand prize at the end of $50,000, and it had to improve the bar business in some way. So loosely, it could be connected to sustainability, but we have several categories. And the team that won in 2018 are from Canada. They have a project called Mind the Bar, and it's helping bartenders that are struggling with mental health issues. They started a brilliant app that supports bartenders, which is free for them. And, you know, that's the kind of thing. So we were due to take the finalists from about, I think, 15 different countries back in a couple of months. Obviously, that's not happening, and we will reschedule it. But you know, it's a new thing for lots of people, so it's been quite hard for a lot of bartenders to think differently, think outside the box. It's easy for bartenders to come up with a recipe, but when you say to them, we want you to come up with, you know, a new business idea, suddenly there's this kind of shock moment. So, you know, I've been touring, trying to explain to people that it's not that complicated, and you know, we have so many issues and challenges and problems in our industry. So this is all about finding those solutions. So I think it's, you know, it's a wonderful thing to be a part of, and I'm very proud to be part of it. I'm grateful that the team, you know, allowed us collectively to.
I think it's really cool. There are these sort of programs that they can ask you more to develop yourself more than just being a bartender. And for all these experiences, actually what happens going to Mexico, talking about, like you said, in Tahona, yoga and health, food and everything, it's called in the end education, you know, because this is how you educate yourself. You meet people, they know you things, you take the information what you think are okay for yourself in this time, and you just apply it, you know, because that's how all of us will learn things. Most of the things I didn't study, I took it from the others around me, and then of course I went and studying it. But the main ideas and the fundamental, you take it from the parents when you are a kid, and then once you get older, from the people who are around you. That's why I think it's cool to be surrounded with really, really cool people, smart people with different ideas. Just to see the things from different perspectives, not just from one, you know. Cool. Silvio, how was in Mexico? It's true that the Altos they respect the environment, and the Tahona process its own. Did you see things like this, or you just been drunk all the time and you don't remember?
First of all, because I didn't get the chance to say it the first time, thanks for inviting me to hang out with the cool kids. And yeah, it's true. I was drunk most of the time, but I thoroughly enjoyed everything I saw, and I think the most important thing that I got out of the whole experience was the fact that Altos, that you guys uh, involve the community around you and the community around the world extremely, extremely well, and I love that. I felt the love for the people, and the Altos family is great. Like every person I met that was even remotely related to you, uh, everyone was so cool there. I admit I had some misconceptions before I went to Mexico, because we live in a stereotypical society, so we all are okay. But it was completely, completely different than what I imagined.
Good.
Everyone I met, from Sinai, the guy that was with us, he's the coolest guy ever. Okay, yeah. He was really fun,
He's
and
very cool,
yeah. And I really love that we didn't do anything really formal. Everything was so friendly. Like we went to, the most amazing thing was that we went to a lucha libre show, and for me it was like
Nice.
every little kid's dream, because when I was little I used to love pro wrestling. So when I got to see that show and take in the vibe and the atmosphere, it was the greatest thing
Show
ever.
us the mask. Show us the mask.
Yeah,
Show us the mask.
it's here. I got them. It was the weirdest thing.
I always
So,
used to love that film, the Nacho Libre, Nacho Libre. That is the parody with Jack Black. Yeah. Good. And
so the funny story about this mask was that on our way to the wrestling show in the first day, we were like 12 people, or 10 to 12, I can remember. 3 of us from Romania and some other guys from New Zealand. And we were in this Mercedes Sprinter, like in this minivan, and they gave us all those types of masks. And they started a UV light inside the Sprinter, and these parts of the mask started to glow. And I just imagine what the people outside of the minivan were thinking is when they were watching us. There were like 12 crazy people wearing glowing masks in a car, on a I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday evening. It was weird, but it was fun.
Yeah, I heard the mask. It's allowed in Mexico just to wear it Saturday. Then you fucked up. You've been really, really lucky that you survived. Yeah, very good, man.
Yeah, and
this is our quite of experience. And I want to say, because sorry to stop you, and then you continue. I would like to say that all the bartenders who can watch us, these are the things what you have to think that we're gonna do soon, and we're gonna go back going this job. Bartending is not just a job; it can be more than a job. It's just if you know to manage it, and you know what you want, and if you learn things and you whatever, you can be like dresses from brand ambassador. You can travel. You can do whatever you want. It's a free life, you know what I mean? Yeah, and.
Okay, and because you asked about like the process of making the tequila, and if the people really care for the environment and stuff like that, and that's really, really true. And I was amazed by that. I got to see the process from the harvesting to the process of cooking the agave, putting it into the roller mirror. I got to see the Tohono stone, which was really, really cool. Like with the robot thingy that was the replacement of the horse or a donkey, if I'm not mistaken. Was it a horse or a donkey that used to do that in the past, like to move the stone in circles?
Mm-hmm. Well, did you see the recipe? It's half and half or whatever. Because if you're not,
no, sadly I didn't.
After we finish, we're gonna grow some blue agaves over here somewhere. It doesn't matter where, and we're gonna just make some tequilas.
Yeah. No, sadly I didn't see the recipe. But I got to see.
Cool. How many days did you stay in Mexico? How many days did you stay in Mexico?
4 days, I think. 4 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
It
wasn't that long.
It's short enough.
Yeah, short, but really, really eventful. So the 4 days were over in like, I don't know, it felt like a single day, but it was really, really full of stuff.
Da, acum văd că a ieșit drept, i-a căzut netul ceva de genul ăsta, poate o să se întoarcă, poate nu. Ca să nu se întoarcă, să nu-i mulțumesc foarte mult. Here we go, he's back. Here we go, Dre is back again. Yeah, here we go. Cool. Yeah, man, that was a really, really cool experience.
Yeah.
Possibly everyone wants to go to Mexico. Hopefully, I'll go soon as well to eat some burritos and tacos. No, tacos, no burritos. Tacos.
Yeah.
And drink tequila. Yeah. Well, looks like this show become like a tequila show because we've done so many shows with tequila recently because it was the Cinco de Mayo. And then all the week, last week, we've done it with tequila, and now we started again with tequila. Then this looks like it's a tequila thing. People now, they can judge me and blame me that I like tequila. Who doesn't know? Yes, I love tequila and mezcal. These are my things. These are the things that I like to drink. If you see me in the bar, so once I go, you can see me there. If you serve me with a 100 blue agave tequila or mezcal, I'm gonna be happy enough. Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah, we already chat 1 hour and 6 minutes. Usually, this show is for about 45 minutes, less than an hour. But of course, you guys are really interesting. Silvio, I promise that I'm gonna call you again. Yeah, because we didn't chat that much. Dre, thank you very much. Hopefully, in one day we're gonna see each other, we're gonna meet, and we're gonna talk more and more. Because I think you are like an encyclopedia of stories, and you are like a big book. Yeah, and it's really for me it's a proper honor to have you and to talk with you, and hopefully for everyone who was watching this show. And in the end of every session, I have for all my guests, I have like around 10 questions, more or less. And it's like a sort of short game. You just have to answer quick. And then we start off for which question with Dre, and we finish with Silvio. And the first question sounds like this. Tea or coffee in the morning?
Coffee.
Yeah, coffee, definitely.
Colombian, of course, is coffee. Okay. The Colombian roots and the Cluj roots. Okay. What's your favorite dish and what's on it?
Say that last bit again.
What's your favorite dish and what's on it?
Oh, okay. Favorite dish, as in food. Sorry, you keep cutting out. But I just want to make sure that's right. Dish, yeah.
Yeah, food. Yeah.
Okay. So I think as a family, one of our go-to dishes, and we all love it, and it's quick and simple and tasty, is carbonara. My wife made me cook it for her when she was pregnant. My 7-year-old kid, if you ask her what she wants, it's carbonara. So yeah, I think I have to go with that one. Silvia.
Okay. I have lots of favorite dishes, but I don't want to be cliche and say pizza. So I would say it's broccoli with a lot of cheese and sour cream, like just boiled broccoli.
Yeah, that's how it's called. It's a dish called like in the oven, made in the oven. I forgot.
Yeah. And
gratinated.
Yeah, and you said Cluj roots because of the coffee, but I don't have Cluj roots. We're actually from the same city. I'm
Oh my days! I thought why you are such a nice person, because usually people from Cluj, they are not so nice. Right. Well, the 4 questions are like this. Pick one, Batman or Superman, and why?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I'm gonna go with Superman because when I was a kid, it was Superman that I was introduced to first. But then I ended up liking Batman too, more of the kind of the darker side to him. But I'll go with my first answer, Superman, because that's the first superhero that I was introduced to. Full stop.
Okay. This is a little bit hard because I'm more of a Marvel guy. I'm not that big of a fan of DC, but I'd like to go with Batman because I find him a little bit more interesting than Superman. Superman is kind of like I don't know, he's too powerful and it gets boring. Yeah, that's what I'd like to go with Batman.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
The next question sounds like this. Is the glass half full or half empty?
You got to say half full. You got to be optimistic. You got to be positive. Half full.
Yeah, definitely
Always.
half full every time.
Cool. Now the next one sounds like this. What kind of music do you listen often?
Okay, so I have, I guess, a go-to DJ that I listen to on the radio called Giles Peterson, and he plays a very eclectic, meaning a big mix of music, world music. So on there you could hear anything from Colombian, cumbia to like African beats to a lot of hip hop, soul, jazz. It's many different genres that have a similar good time feel. And that would be a recommendation. If you can find him online, Giles Peterson, you're in for a treat because it's not one type of music. It's lots of different good music, but he plays a lot of soul, jazz, reggae, funk. I love all of that.
Sounds good.
Okay, and all of my life I've been the rock type of guy. I really like rock, but as I got older, well, I'm not that old, but as I got older, I started to enjoy like alternative rock or indie rock, and I think the go-to bands that I go to like almost every day is Nothing But Thieves. I really, really enjoyed their music. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they're really cool.
I haven't. I'm gonna check it out.
Now is coming. Now is coming. The next question is related to the one before. It's what's the best concert you ever been to? Live concerts.
Yeah. I allow me to show off a little bit because I've seen a lot of great icons over the years. So Stevie Wonder, who I'm a big fan, and it's his birthday today, so I thought I'd represent. I saw him live last year in London, but that wasn't the greatest concert. I was a little bit disappointed, but he's 70 now. I've seen the Rolling Stones, which was amazing. I've seen Prince, which was incredible. I've seen Michael Jackson. I've seen James Brown. Lots of big important people. But I'd say for me the best is a female black singer, Grace Jones, who is a very powerful woman, and she just is incredible on stage. I love her music. I've seen her a couple of times. So I think, Grace Jones is probably the best for me.
Okay, and
cool.
for me, it was Grandmaster Flash at Electric Castle last year. It was amazing.
Don't push me, because I'm close to the age. I'm trying not to lose my age.
It was so cool to see him like at his 62 years of age, being so energetic and creating an atmosphere that many other younger artists didn't. And it was amazing. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, but that was a DJ set. That was a DJ set, I think. No, it
Yeah,
wasn't
but
like a live
technically it was him, but he prepared it but it was really, really cool. The story about the history of of his history in New York, it was great. It was really, really cool.
Next question sounds like this, and it's a little bit more serious. Pick one: free healthcare or free education?
Ooh.
Whoa.
I mean, I come from a society where both of those things, you know, are free and always been free. And I
somehow,
and I think everyone should be entitled to that. But if I had to put one, then I think education. I wouldn't want to deprive anyone from education. I think it's incredibly important. So is healthcare. But if you're forcing me to say one, then I'm going to say education.
I'm going to stand by Dre on this one, and I'm going to say education too. It would be really, really bad if education started to be started to cost, because it's really, really important. People develop their minds and grow in their first years of school, and it's a really important period in someone's life. Even if you choose to go to university or study at higher levels, the first years of school are super important. So education.
Yeah, it's true. I would pick the same one. Well, the next question sounds like this: what's the cocktail that you can't stop drinking?
My go-to drink is a Tommy's margarita. I have a big, strong relationship with it, and it's super tasty. It's simple, and it's like a lemonade for adults.
Okay.
Still,
I'm more of a beer guy. Like I love beer and I love craft beer and all that stuff. But if I'd have to go for a cocktail, I don't want to be common and say a Negroni, but I really, really enjoy it, and I think it's my most go-to drink. But I also love Great Paloma. So
yeah, cool.
between Negroni and Paloma, I think Negroni.
Negroni and Paloma. Negroni, yeah, classic. You are a classic rock girl, right? What's the best bar in the world for yourself, and why?
Okay. Okay. So with the Tommy's Margarita, you Tommy's Bar in San Francisco. My best friend owns and runs that, Julio, and he really makes that bar. He is a lesson in hospitality. That's all I'm going to say. You got to go there and see it, but it's incredible how he looks after everyone in that bar.
I haven't had the chance to see that many bars around the world because I haven't been traveling so much. But actually, when I was in Mexico, in Guadalajara, we went to a bar on our last night. It was called El Galo Altanero, and I just loved it there. It was amazing. The people there were so friendly and hospitable. There was a girl working there in the bar. Yeah, her name was Maria. She helped me with everything I wanted to know. Like I tried, I think, 7 or 8 types of craft beer, and she stood by my side and talked me through every type of beer that I drank. and talked me through the history of raicilla. And because I haven't tasted raicilla before, and I was really curious, but I loved it. And I was really, really impressed by everyone there. The atmosphere, the place looked cool. The location was amazing. It was sort of a speakeasy bar, half inside, half outside. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, love that bar.
Right. Yeah. Well, I after I'm gonna go there, I will tell you as well. Right. The last question. It's very, 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 very serious. It's can you touch the nose with your tongue?
No.
No. Dre, he didn't get it. Right, guys. This is the end of the show. Thank you very much.
Sorry, if there's another question,
you.
can you repeat that for me, please? I'm just
the last question was like this. Can you touch
power and headphones? I want the last bit of power here.
Can you touch the nose with your tongue?
Is there another question, Sebastian?
No, this is the last one. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you very much because you accept, both of you, to come in this show. Hopefully, we had some people who
I can't hear him now.
We can hear you, but it's okay. Hopefully we're gonna see each other soon outside of our houses.
Silvio, can you...
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. We could hear you even back then. Okay.
And thank you very much.
I can't hear Sebastian. That's my problem.
Okay.
No. Do you know the question? Maybe you can.
Yeah. I can tell. It was, can you touch the tip of your nose with a tongue?
No. No, I can't. Can you?
No, me neither.
Me either. Cool. Thank you very much. This is the end of the show.
I understand that. Okay. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Silvio. Great to see you, Sebastian. Big love, respect to your community over there. And hopefully I can get to see you guys in person at some point.
Yeah.
And thanks for including me today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Say hi to Meg.
Thank you. Bye now. Bye.
I will do. Absolutely.